You fall asleep completely normally. Your evening routine goes off without a hitch. Your head hits the pillow and you drift into a deeply restful slumber. Everything feels perfectly fine. But then, right out of nowhere, the silence is broken. Your eyes suddenly snap open, your mind kicks into high gear, and you realize you are completely, stubbornly wide awake. You're just lying there in the dark, and a very specific kind of frustration starts to set in. I mean, you haven't had a nightmare. There was no loud noise outside, but your rest is simply vanished into thin air. You roll over and check the clock. It's exactly 3 a.m. Your bedroom is completely dark, the house is quiet, but your brain is suddenly fully awake. And almost immediately, your mind starts making lists. You start calculating how many hours of sleep you actually have left, right? You start worrying about how completely exhausted you're going to feel during tomorrow's meetings or activities. You just lie there, staring at the ceiling, feeling that familiar, super frustrating wave of dread wash over you, knowing that the rest of your night is about to be a total battle just to get back to sleep. So why does this keep happening? Look, if you're over 50, this 3 a.m. wake-up call is incredibly common, but you don't have to just accept it as your new normal. In this explainer, we're going to dive straight into the medical science to uncover exactly why early morning awakenings happen after 50. We're going to reveal 5 hidden disruptors, and I'll show you why the secret to actually sleeping through the night might start the exact moment you wake up. Part 1. The foundation. What changes with age? The very first thing we need to establish here is that changes in how you rest are a completely normal part of getting older. It's not a disease, and I promise you are not broken. Throughout the night, your brain cycles through something called sleep architecture. Basically, it's an alternating rhythm of light sleep, deep restorative sleep, and REM, or dream sleep. Think of it kind of like a staircase that your brain walks up and down while you rest. But as the decades pass, the way your brain builds this staircase naturally shifts. As we age, our bodies just produce lower levels of crucial sleep-regulating chemicals, like growth hormone and melatonin. And this biological shift doesn't just change how long you sleep, it actually alters the fundamental structure and stability of your rest, changing the very foundation of what happens after you close your eyes. Because of these biological changes, older adults end up spending far more time hanging out in lighter sleep stages. Think of it like this. If deep sleep is like being a heavy submarine resting peacefully at the bottom of the ocean, folks over 50 spend a lot of the night more like a small boat, just bobbing right up near the surface of the water. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means your sleep is inherently more fragile. It takes much, much less to pull you out of a slumber than it did back in your 20s. Honestly, a shift in the wind is all it takes to wake you up. Part 2, the core mystery, 5 hidden disruptors. If your light sleep is that easily broken, it's almost always driven by one of 5 highly researched disruptors that are secretly operating in the background. And honestly, one of them might actually be sitting on your nightstand right now. Disruptor number 1 is the circadian shift. Deep inside your brain, there's a master biological clock that dictates when you feel sleepy and when you feel awake. As we age beyond 50, this internal circadian clock naturally starts to shift earlier. Doctors actually call this a phase advance. Basically, your core body temperature drops earlier in the evening and begins to rise earlier in the morning. This physiological change literally tricks your brain into feeling like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. is actually time to start the day, signaling you to wake up even when it's still pitch black outside. Moving on to disruptor number 2, light exposure imbalance. You see, our circadian clocks are deeply anchored by light. The problem today is that many adults over 50 just aren't getting enough bright, natural sunlight during the day, but then we consume a heavy overload of artificial blue light from screens in the evening, and this blue light aggressively suppresses melatonin, which is your primary sleep hormone. This completely derails your natural biological timing. When your brain doesn't get that stark contrast between bright days and dark nights, it gets really confused about when to keep you asleep, leaving you wide awake in the middle of the night. Disruptor number 3, alcohol. Now, a glass of wine with dinner might make you feel nice and relaxed, and sure, it initially acts as a sedative to help you fall asleep, but it triggers a massive biological trap. As your liver metabolizes the alcohol during the night, you experience what's known as a glutamate rebound. Your brain literally spikes with excitatory chemicals, completely overriding your sleep drive and reliably jolting you awake a few hours later, usually right around 3 a.m. It is essentially a chemical alarm clock going off inside your nervous system. Disruptor number 4, nighttime fluids and bathroom trips. Waking up to use the restroom is incredibly common as we age, but there's a fascinating biological reason for it. As we get older, our bodies naturally produce less of an antidiuretic hormone called vasopressin. Now, vasopressin usually pauses your kidney function at night. Because you have less of it, the timing of your evening fluids plays a massive role. Having a large glass of water at 8 in the evening practically guarantees you're going to be walking down a dark hallway at 3 in the morning, which entirely shatters those fragile light sleep stages we talked about. And finally, disruptor number 5, stress, temperature, and noise. Because you're spending way more time in lighter sleep, your threshold for waking up just plummets. Underlying daytime anxiety or stress keeps your cortisol levels elevated. A bedroom that's even slightly too warm, and ideally it really should be kept around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, will disrupt your temperature regulation. And minor household noises, like a pet shifting on the rug or a floorboard creaking, they will absolutely snap your eyes open. Things you happily slept right through at 30 will immediately wake you at 50. So, to recap real quick, we're looking at circadian rhythm shifts, light exposure imbalance, caffeine and alcohol timing, nighttime fluid intake, and finally, stress, temperature, and noise. Take a second right now to mentally identify which of these might be secretly sabotaging your nights. Reflect on your own evening habits. Recognizing the specific culprit is the absolute first step to solving the 3 a.m. mystery. And once you identify it, you can actually start doing something about it. Part 3, the action plan. What to do tonight. Let's shift gears from the biological theory to a highly practical, evidence-backed routine that you can literally implement immediately to start fixing these early morning awakenings. First up is the morning routine. Set a consistent wake time, get immediate morning sunlight, and maintain daytime physical activity. Now here is the really fascinating science. Fixing a 3 a.m. awakening actually begins the exact moment you wake up in the morning. By getting bright, natural morning sunlight into your eyes immediately, you start a 14-hour biological timer for melatonin production. You're aggressively anchoring your circadian clock, sending this powerful signal to your brain that totally prevents it from drifting earlier and waking you up in the middle of the night. Next, we have the evening routine. Stop late afternoon caffeine, limit fluids before bed, and keep the bedroom cool and pitch black. So stopping caffeine at least 10 hours before bed and cutting off liquids 2 hours before sleep are absolute game changers. Minimizing those fluids acts as a biological shield against those frequent bathroom trips. And dropping the temperature optimizes your physical environment to protect those vulnerable, lighter sleep stages. Look, these aren't just helpful tips. They're really non-negotiable boundaries for uninterrupted rest after 50. By implementing them, you create a baseline environment where sleep can actually thrive. Part 4. The twist. A common mistake. Now, even with a perfectly optimized routine, you might still occasionally wake up in the night. And there is a seemingly harmless, yet totally destructive habit almost everyone does the exact second they wake up in the dark, which practically guarantees they're going to stay awake. The absolute worst thing you can do is check the clock. Checking the clock induces a massive stress response, reinforcing what we call conditioned wakefulness. Staring at those glowing numbers at 3 a.m. is a huge mistake, folks. The moment you start doing the mental math on how much time you have left to sleep, your adrenal glands just flood your body with cortisol and anxiety. You're literally conditioning your brain to associate your bed with stress, locking yourself into a state of forced wakefulness that is incredibly difficult to break out of. So what's the evidence-backed alternative? Leave the bed if you've been awake for more than 20 minutes. Do not just lie there tossing, turning, and getting frustrated. Get up, go to a totally different room, and keep the lights extremely dim. Preferably use warm amber light that won't disrupt your melatonin. Do a quiet, relaxing activity, like reading a physical book. Absolutely no screens. You just wait until that heavy, undeniable wave of sleepiness naturally returns. And only then do you return to bed. You just have to break that cycle of bedtime anxiety. Part 5. The boundary. When to seek help. Now, while changing sleep architecture is completely natural, there is a very clear boundary where persistent disruptions require professional attention and, honestly, should never just be blamed on getting older. We're talking about persistent nightly disruption that destroys your daytime functioning, or extreme daytime exhaustion where you struggle to stay awake during the day, frequent morning headaches, or if you ever wake up gasping or choking for air, it is absolutely time to consult a doctor. These are classic, recognizable signs of underlying medical conditions like sleep apnea, which require proper medical support, testing, and treatment, not just lifestyle or environmental tweaks. But for most of us, true success isn't about sleeping like a rock for 8 uninterrupted hours. Let's be real, that's kind of just a myth of our youth. The real goal is simply how easily you return to sleep. Waking up occasionally is a completely normal human experience, especially after 50. True success is just drifting back off peacefully, without panic, without checking the time, and confident in the knowledge that your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to leave you with this question.
Which small habit will you change tonight to reclaim your rest? Are you going to finally stop checking the clock? Or maybe commit to getting outside for that morning sunlight? Remember, small changes compound into massive results over time. If you're over 50 and want more practical, evidence-informed guides on healthy aging, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Start tonight, protect your sleep, and we will see you in the next explainer.